But today we're going to talk about, we're going to hear from text number 12. So before we start, I'll just offer invocation prayers. Om Akyana Timirandasya Garanjana Shalakha Chakshurmalitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swam Rupa Kadam Mayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Chuta Parakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Shri Rupam Sarvajatam Sargana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvetam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sargana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamsha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagapate Gopisha Gopika Kantarada Kantanamastute Tapta Kanchana Gorangira Devi Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Eva Cha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So I guess because I haven't been around for a while, so we'll just read the previous verse also. We'll just remind ourselves what was going on. It's not gonna... I'll read the verse even earlier before that. So when the king went to the forest, he was killing many animals and he became very tired. So, but there is also allegorical meaning or more spiritual kind of meaning behind this allegorical story, which is that it's not just king went to the forest hunting, killing animals and then becoming tired, but forest represents this material world, specifically places where one goes to enjoy his senses. What are those places? Well, maybe restaurants, maybe different kinds of clubs, maybe different kinds of casinos, gambling houses, or cinema, this, that, whatever, all kinds of, wherever people derive certain kind of pleasure. You may yourself imagine where you could want to go for agitating your senses. There are plenty of places here in Mumbai. So that's what this forest of material enjoyment actually represents. That's the forest. That's the forest. That's like what they say, that's the expression, the concrete jungle. So within that, you have certain places where you can enjoy, like monkeys whose battery is running low. It's not connected. Oh, but here, what about this one? It's gonna die now. A minor detail, okay. So that's why in this concrete jungle there are different places, like in the forest. Where is the forest of enjoyment? I see different monkeys gather on different branches. Now I try to gather some fruits, have some enjoyment like this. So in the material world there are many more varieties. Human beings have greater facility, but they also have a greater responsibility. That's the difference between animals and the human beings. You have a greater forest, more options, but we have also more responsibility. If we don't fulfill that, then we are responsible ourselves for whatever activities we have performed. So if we don't know what we are doing and we are just by sinful activities harming ourselves and harming others, you may say in ignorance, it doesn't matter. But reactions will be appropriate, responsive in relationship to whatever has been done. So that's a material world. So it's better to know rather not to know. It's better to have understanding, better to have knowledge how to act, rather than not to know. If we may say, oh, it sounds harsh, it sounds very depressive to hear. There's some, like reactions and suffering and this and that. But that's part of life. I mean, don't we all suffer? I suffered yesterday. I was trying to sleep and I got a seat just next to the door. And every time somebody went in and threw, tuck, 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 all night, it's freaking out. And not even that, but the vibration also, it's kind of interesting. It's connected by that little partition. And then you also feel it. It's like somebody's always shaking your bed or something. So there's always some kind of minor or major type of suffering going on. That's inevitable in this material world. So then, what do we say? Oh no, everything was great and nice. That would be ridiculous. I mean, that would be like insane to pretend that everything is great and nice. But how can you pretend? How long can anybody pretend that everything is great and nice? There's nothing actually great and nice in this material world. And then you can be happy about it. When you realize this, then you can be happy. Then you can laugh at whatever circumstances are and laugh at those and oneself if you expect something else. That's reality, and then you expect some illusion out of a particular reality. But that's to be laughed upon. Then we can have a good laugh. And we can be happy, understanding, that's what goes on, and there's nothing else you can really expect about it. As long as we follow a certain pattern of lifestyle. That's the point. But when we practice spiritual life, then of course, yes, then we have some substance. And we have it. Then we can have something substantial. Then we can have something nice going on and really be internally happy and satisfied. That's something that's meaningful. So yes, so King went, he was sporting, hunting, doing so many things, and that's compared to man or woman going out and hunting for other men and women, sporting around the concrete jungle. And then there's a point everybody gets tired. I remember I became so sick at some point. I kind of came in touch with a spiritual. I was 17, and I came across I read one book earlier, and then I started kind of coming to the programs. I discovered there's some Hare Krishna programs going on, and I said, wow, that's it. But somehow, still for not few months, little less than few months, I was still kind of going out with my old friends. And of course, where we go to some clubs and concerts and this and that, whatever kinds of nonsense things. We're trying to squeeze some enjoyment out of it. And then sometimes, we have this Mangalarati for 4:30 in the morning. So then I would stay out whole night and come from Mangalarati. And they go, wow, amazing. It's amazing somebody comes from Mangalarati. Usually everybody sleeps at the time. But I didn't even sleep. I just came straight from out. So anyway, so then I was going out, and you become all hyped up listening kinds of sounds and music and this and that, and you have so much expectation, and then you just stay and you see, look around, because you have far more elevated consciousness. See, what's this going on? What is this going on? What is this all about? And it seemed so meaningless. It seemed so empty. And it really, that's what it was. But because people become intoxicated, people that they're full of some expectation and things, but there's nothing really going on there. It's just so boring, actually. Just so unsubstantial. And then I just and then of course, when you practice spiritual life, you get higher taste. You get something better, really. And then I just dropped it. I just said, forget about it. There's no use. So that was that higher taste of Krishna conscious practice. So like this, I was also getting tired. Yeah, well, I had that feeling. Thinking that, what am I doing here? It's just so, it's just so empty. What am I doing here? And I was becoming tired, and I was thinking, let me go home and let me get some sleep. What's the use? Yeah. Anyway, people sleep. Either they get intoxicated in many different ways and fall asleep. So I thought maybe better I go and get some good rest, without all this additional, additional substances or whatever. So I was getting tired. I was getting tired of the place, of the environment. I was getting tired of everything. So like this, when one tries to enjoy sense gratification, at some point you get tired of it, because it really gives you nothing except frustration, except disappointment. That's all. Yeah. Well, I have many other realizations, but that I'll share in some more personal setting. So it's like, so you get tired of all of that. It's after some time, really. It's like, so that's what King also, he was, apparently trying to enjoy himself, doing so many things, but he got tired. And then what he did, after performing all these sinful activities, and said the king became very much fatigued, hungry and thirsty. And he returned to his royal palace. And after returning, he took a bath and had an appropriate dinner. Then he took rest and thus become free from all restlessness. Okay, so in the purport, Srila Prabhupada was explaining that different, of course, influences of the modes of material nature. So taking bath refers to retiring from sinful activities, purifying oneself from sinful activities, becoming fully refreshed like this. So the real food, it's food in the mode of goodness, then, being hungry, satisfying his hunger, Prabhupada explains. Not other sinful types of food. So that's the point. Returning home, it's indicative of man's returning to his original consciousness, known as Krishna consciousness. So that's a nice analogy. It's a nice allegorical story. And Srila Prabhupada concludes saying Krishna consciousness is absolutely necessary for one who has committed a lot of sinful activities, especially killing animals or hunting in the forest. So after exploring this material world, doing so many different kinds of things, then one, finally, come to some higher consciousness, and then becomes really peaceful, satisfied, purified, and happy. That's the point. It's like, it reminds me of a story. I don't know whether it's a true story or not, but it sounds good anyway. It doesn't matter. It's quite enlightening. When the Alexander the Great went to kind of conquer the world, he had that desire, and then he came to some wise man, and the wise man asked him, so what's your goal of life? What are you going to do? So then Alexander said, now I'm going to conquer the world. Okay, and then what are you going to do? I mean, it's like, well, he was telling, first I'm going to conquer this country, then I'm going to conquer that, and this, and then I'm going to conquer. And then the old wise man asked him then, okay, so finally when you conquer all these places, then what are you going to do? And then he said, Alexander replied, then I'm going to sit and take rest. Then I'm going to, relax. And then old man told him, he said, you can do it right now, You can just sit and relax right here. You don't have to go and conquer anything. What's the use of wasting time? You can do it right now. So that's Krishna consciousness. We have that misconception thinking, yes, I have to conquer the world. I have to explore all the sinful options. I have to do so many things, then I will become Krishna conscious. Stupid, Stupid. Why? Why do we have to have bad experience? Why we can't learn, and why we can't get good taste right now? Why we don't allow ourselves to be Krishna conscious right now? Because ultimately, anyway, you'll have to come to that point. Because there's nothing in this world that's going to that can satisfy the soul. Soul is of different substance. Matter is of different substance. They don't get together. They don't mix. They're not. They cannot add to each other in any way. What's that word? There is a word. No, wait a second. They're incompatible. That's true. There's another word I'm looking for. You know, when things assist each other, it's kind of assistance. It starts with S. No. Anyway, maybe it will come later. But I don't want to water down the point which I said. Get a little distracted, that's right. A little moment of meditation. Anyway, we can take a little intermission now for a moment. One second. It'll come. Praying to Krishna to remind us. Anyway, it will come. Doesn't matter. In the course of time, whenever it's required. So the essence is the soul just can't be happy in any kind of material environment. It's impossible. It's just impossible. No matter what you do, no matter what you try. And we waste, it's not just one life, we waste lifetimes. We waste lifetimes of all kinds of different types of activities. And then what do we get? The final point. Get to the final point, what we really are. What we really are by nature. We're the spirit soul. We're Satchit Ananda Vigraha. So that's absolutely incompatible with Asat, Achit, and Nir Ananda. What is this material world? We, as full of eternity, full of cognizance, knowledge, and bliss, we come to this material world which is just the opposite, which is temporary, full of ignorance, and full of misery. But why we are looking for happiness? Because that's our nature. Why we don't want to die? That's our nature. Why we are looking for some enlightenment, knowledge? Because it's our nature. But in this world, there's nothing as such. There's nothing as such. That's why we're always disappointed. That's why we are always, in some kind of frustration. That's why always somebody else disappoints us. In so many ways. So many ways. Because everybody's so selfish, unconsiderate. So that's the material world. You can't make it what our nature is, because that's what it's not nature of this material world. When you try to change something into something else, but how is it possible? You try to change that fan into this cooler. How is that going to work? It's not going to work. It looks similar, but it's not going to work. You can't. You'll just have to. You can't. Any engineer here, can you do that? Can you make that fan into this cooler? How is that possible? With elements that it's consisted of right now, and it's impossible. So how can we change the nature of this material existence? It's not possible. So that's why the soul, it just can't find a resting place in this material world, really. But we are so foolish, we become so intoxicated again, then we keep on trying, maybe this, maybe that, maybe. 4,400,000 options of different species of life are there. And not even once, many times within one species. So that may turn for billions of lifetimes trying to search like a king through all these different sense enjoyments. Maybe this, maybe that, maybe this, maybe that. And never become happy. So then why we are wasting time? Because we don't want to surrender, we don't want to hear. We are again so bound by this material illusory energy that even if we have the option of Krishna consciousness, we don't want to accept it. We don't want to accept it. We still think, no, this will make me happy. Well, good luck. Good luck, Eventually we will all go back to Krishna. It's just a matter of billions of lifetimes, but we'll all come back to Krishna. And come to a point realizing that yes, there's substance in this material world. It's a mirage. It's a mirage. It's no girl will satisfy you, no position will satisfy you, no amount of anything material will satisfy you. So, but then why we don't try Krishna consciousness? Why we not serious about Krishna consciousness? So that's the problem. That was the problem with Alexander also. Finally, actually, he didn't rest because first of all, he didn't accomplish what he wanted to accomplish, right? He failed at India. Didn't even come further than China or something, whatever, but he that was it. That was his last point here. Then he returned back and he died. Very young. So that's our life. Even what we want to accomplish, and then we think, then we will rest. Even that doesn't happen. Even that doesn't happen. See how material energy cheats us. I think now I have to study, and then I'll get this, and then whatever. She will break your neck one day, Relax, Baba. So many things I have to do in life. And then even that, we either we accomplish or we don't accomplish, and it doesn't satisfy us. Because again, how can matter satisfy spirit soul? It doesn't have capacity. It doesn't have the substance. So then why we can't be happy in Krishna consciousness? And then we have all kinds of excuses. Because we just don't have experience what dealing with matter actually is. We still haven't been smashed and trashed sufficiently by our own reactions that material energy provides actually to teach us some lessons. So then, what can be done? Then we have to learn. In the West, we have expression, the school of hard knocks. But any intelligent person should, ask himself, why going through all of that? Why can't we have fun? We can have fun. We have enough fun in being Krishna conscious. What is fun outside, for us was fun anyway. What when you get in some, knockout with somebody else or something, what is fun? Or you cheat someone, or what they call pranks, it can be really vicious, or whatever. What is fun outside? What is fun? What kind of low type of fun that is? Just putting down anybody as much as possible. That's funny. Becomes really low. So that's why Krishna consciousness is the most refined process of gaining satisfaction. This is what spiritual life is giving us. So then, yes, that's what eventually, even though one may go through so many whatever kinds of experiences, through all this forest of hunting and enjoying and whatever, eventually one will become tired of it. One will become tired of it. And even if you don't become tired, you'll become weak. You'll become weak. You won't be able to hunt it as you used to hunt. You won't be able to gain things as you used to do. That's why, in old age, people lament about their position. Of course, but then desires are still strong. Desires are still strong. And nowadays, of course, you have all kinds of media to try to satisfy desires and even more agitate them. So then what happens? Then, of course, then one prepares himself for the next life and tries again and again and again and again and again. But again, eventually, sure, everybody will come to a certain point. Everybody will come to a certain point of gaining some realization. That's Krishna's mercy. That's why he had created that's a different type of evolution of consciousness. Evolution of consciousness, where we start realizing a little bit what is going on around us, and why we perceive certain thing in a certain ways. So that's really Krishna's mercy. Or he will send someone again, like maybe Krishna won't directly become involved, but that's why he has his devotees. And that's why devotees are considered even more merciful than Krishna. They'll go to so many places and present Krishna consciousness to so many people which are absolutely disinterested. But devotees will take that risk. Devotees will take that risk because they know what's really beneficial for someone. Of course, the best is when we gain some taste, or when somebody is presented with some taste. Like, what is the most tasteful thing that one can experience? Huh? What's the most tasteful thing? That's a very literal question. Huh? Sweet. What kind of sweet? Prashad. In general. It said the best way to someone's heart is through. Yeah. Huh? What? Yeah, but through what? I mean, you're not going to put it here or somewhere else. No? So that's why eventually we do become Krishna conscious. And it's interesting. And many times some people trying to, like now I remember they're talking now, like Kadambakanan Maharaj, he was saying he was in Amsterdam. That's a famous place, it's like Amsterdam. It's a pinnacle of material degradation. All kinds of things going on there. I spent a few weeks. That was enough, never to return again. So he said, well, he was not. He saw devotees chanting on the street, and he said, "Who are these people?" And he would run away in some store front or something where just to avoid them. He didn't want to have anything to do with it. And they were completely strange and weird and absolutely non-attractive, whatever. So he was trying to avoid them. So he said once also, it so happened, and he was in a local, some kind of transfer, I don't know, he said bus or something else, and there was a devotee sitting next to him. But he wasn't interested, but devotee also didn't do anything. Many times that's what devotees do, they don't do anything. That's also that I also have that experience. That's very, delayed in my Krishna consciousness for some time, because somebody could have done something, but they didn't. Kept me in illusion for another, it was a year at least. Could have been saved from so much nonsense if I would have become a little more serious a year earlier. So he was avoiding. He was just absolutely, there was no interest. But somehow or other, his girlfriend had a dog whose name was Krishna. That was funny, So every day, the dogs, they get lost, and it's like that. So he was trying to get him back, and then he was shouting, "Krishna, Krishna, Krishna, Krishna," everywhere. That's how he became. That was a triggering point. Somewhere you get taste from that. Became Krishna conscious. So see, it's interesting. We're trying to avoid Krishna, but eventually, somehow or other, they come back to Krishna. But it's all a matter of rising our consciousness. It's all a matter of how do we rise our consciousness, and then we see when we have much higher consciousness, then we can really appreciate that higher consciousness. Because the lower consciousness can't appreciate higher consciousness. Like the higher consciousness can't appreciate the lower consciousness. But that's why it's better to be in higher consciousness, having broader and more complete understanding of different levels of consciousness, which we all know. They are categorized by, again, different levels of self centeredness. Annamaya, Pranamaya, Jnanamaya, Vijnana, and Anandamaya. Anyway, that's a different discussion. So here it said, so that was very nice. The last time, that's what we discussed, that, you know, the king fatigued, returned to bath, purified himself, took some appropriate nourishment, and then he became free from all restlessness. So after all kinds of adventurous life, he finally found some peace. He finally found some satisfaction. So that's the whole point. So that's like, just imagine how we or any other living entity, we go through this material world and we are looking for this, looking for that, looking for so many things, looking for happiness in so many ways, and never to find that happiness, actually. Really never. We never find happiness. There's always something that it's missing. There's always something that it's giving trouble. There's always something that it's incomplete. And we're always searching and searching and searching and searching. But you're always missing if you don't think of something higher. It means something beyond this material world. Because within material world, there's really nothing for the soul. There's really nothing for the soul. Very important thing is that matter in itself, this is something that we are not realizing. Matter in itself, it's not attractive at all. Did any one of you ever realize this? Matter in itself, it's not attractive at all. Really. You know what makes matter attractive? Or who makes matter attractive? No, okay, yes, but more precisely.
Sense perception.
Huh?
Sense perception.
No. What makes matter attractive? What is making matter attractive, huh? Where's your hand? Now you're suspended.
Consciousness.
Not yes, consciousness, but even more precise. What kind of consciousness? Whose consciousness? Wait a second. Yes. No. Are you're in Maya? No. Follow Shiva.
To achieve something.
Read there something. Yes.
Krishna itself.
Krishna makes material energy attractive. Krishna. Yes, material energy is Krishna's energy. It is there. She also has certain attraction, but she's not really attractive until Krishna enters into it. Krishna in the Garbhodakashay form, he enters into each and every atom. That's why material energy is attractive. Otherwise, it's not. Krishna fulfills our desire to become attracted to material energy. And therefore, he enters into the material energy. So actually, when we are attracted even to material energy, we are actually attracted to Krishna. This is something that we don't know because we don't want to know. Because what is material energy? Material energy is in constant, there is no that principle of entropy, it's a constant disintegration that it's going on. So what is attractive with anything being disintegrated? What is attractive with anything being disintegrated? Nothing. Material energy is in constant flux. So where is the attraction coming from? It's coming from Krishna. We're actually attracted to Krishna. So that kind of energy. That's what the living entity is attracted. Let's say material body, whatever, is a body attracted, no matter how beautiful or handsome body you may, bring here, whatever. If the soul leaves that body, would you be attracted to that body? You ever seen? I've seen once. Once I was going to a railway station, in rickshaw. And there were two men going on a bike. And first it was, my rickshaw was going, means rickshaw I was sitting in, that was taking me to the station. Was going straight on a straight road. And these two men just came from the side and almost practically collided with the rickshaw. Of course, they were not on the main road, they came from the side. So first of all, they were not supposed to do that. And then that one man sitting behind, he turned towards rickshaw, driver like this, and kind of trying to chastise kind of that the driver is wrong. But driver was not wrong, that was just driving straight on the main road. And I couldn't understand this guy, they must be drunk. And they were drunk. They were both drunk like anything. And then they went further a little bit. And then there was a turning point towards the railway station. And they fell. And the guy behind, he smacked the concrete floor, he broke his head, there was all blood, everything. It was a disgusting scene. But we passed, also went to the railway station. You couldn't but miss that horrible, ghastly scene. And I saw that fellow whose head was cracked, you see the open eyes and everything. It was like, yuck, disgusting. Soul was gone. Soul was gone. So no matter how attractive material body is, when it leaves the body, and the soul leaves the body, that body is not attractive at all. It's horrible. It's horrible. I don't know if you had a chance of seeing dead bodies. That's why they call Sham Vairagya, right? People start being a little conscious and maybe a little, being inquisitive and broader minded. When they see the burning hot. So what is attractive about matter? Nothing really. But we are in this illusion that yes, we can enjoy matter, we can be happy in matter's association. So that's the problem. That is the problem. What is the problem? That's why in the West we have an expression, what's the matter? That's the problem. Matter is the problem. So that's our illusion. We think that the matter is attractive. And that's why we get bewildered, and that's why we are trapped in this material world. But the real attraction really comes from the spirit. Either comes from the spirit soul or either comes from Krishna. That's all that it's attractive. But we are illusory attracted, to material existence, not seeing or not knowing about what really is attracting us. So that's our ignorance. That's our ignorance, and that's how material energy keeps on bewildering us. In this material world, making us seek, as I said, that kind of happiness from one body to another, going from one place to another. Thinking, like yesterday, I met one. I forget what he said, but I didn't get that clear. But anyway, it didn't matter so much. So he was working. He was working in France. He was going. That's from New Mumbai. And he was working in France, going frequently there. I don't know what kind of company, what it was. So like there are some places which might be attractive by its architecture, by its kind of setup, by its kind of organized city lifestyle or whatever it might be. But I said to him, that's only the center of the Paris. And, what about the suburbs? You go to suburbs, you'll see all kinds of, horrible things. Tourists don't go to the suburbs. Tourists almost stay in the center of the city. So that's why there's some places, so material world is also like this. It has its high and it has its low. But even at its high, it's all, again, it's temporary, it's hollow. It's not really giving much satisfaction. It's pretty empty. Everything becomes exciting for a short period of time, and then later on, where is the substance? What else is there? So we keep on getting bewildered. Maybe this, maybe that, maybe this, maybe that. Actually, never to find any substance and satisfaction. So that's why this material world, it's termed as Maya. Maya means not this. We think there is something there, but actually it's not. So we are getting illusion and cheated practically in such a way. We are allowing ourselves to become cheated like this. So that's why this is it's really nice verse. I don't know what we have said last time, but it's amazing. So after so much of the so-called search for material satisfaction, finally there comes some kind of realization that there is no material satisfaction. And then one returns home, one returns back to Krishna consciousness. Amazing. It's a very wonderful words. But anyway, we're supposed to discuss the number 12 today. So I'll just go through it fast. Let's see how much we can cover. So it says like this. After this, King Puranjana decorated his body with suitable ornaments. He also smeared scented sandalwood pulp over his body and put on flower garlands. In this way, he became completely refreshed. After this, he began to search out his queen. Purport. When man comes into good consciousness and accepts a saintly person as a spiritual master, he hears many Vedic instructions in form of philosophy, stories, narrations about great devotees and transactions between God and his devotees. In this way, a man becomes refreshed in mind, exactly like a person who smears scented sandalwood pulp all over his body and decorates himself with ornaments. These decorations may be compared to knowledge of religion and the self. Through such knowledge, one becomes detached from material way of life and engages himself in always hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, and other Vedic literatures. The word sadv alankrita used in this verse indicates that one must be absorbed in knowledge gathered from the instructions of saintly persons. Just as the King Puranjana began to search out his better half, the queen, one who is decorated with knowledge and instructions from saintly persons should try to search out his original consciousness, Krishna consciousness. One cannot return to Krishna consciousness unless he is favored by the instructions of a saintly persons. Therefore, Srila Narottam Das Thakur sings, Sadhu Shastra Guru Vakya Chitete Karya Aikya. If you want to become saintly persons, or if you want to return to our original Krishna consciousness, we must associate with Sadhu, a saintly person, Shastra, authoritative Vedic literature, and Guru, a bona fide spiritual master. This is the process. So again, this instructive analogy continues, pointing out that now, yes, okay, one comes to the refreshing point of having some realization of material futilities, but then it's not just enough to understand the negative side of material world. One still has to act in a positive way. It's not just sufficient to negate something. One has to have some positive engagement. One has to have some positive experience also. So then what is the most positive experience that one can have? That is the original consciousness. And now in this verse, it's expressed how to gain that consciousness. Well, it's by association. It's here by scriptures and by somebody who can guide us towards that highest goal, that is the spiritual master. So we see that certain elements in this verse compared to the sandalwood queen and so forth, they represent all these different aspects of one advancing in spiritual life. So that's something that is required. And that's what's refreshing, that's what's enlivening. That's really what is going to bring our original state of being, which means Sat, Chit, and Ananda. That's our Svarupa. That's the Svarupa of the soul. That's something really that we're looking for. So that's why everybody is invited to some extent to experiment, have their own direct perception of Krishna conscious practice. Unless one does that, then again, how will one understand anything? How can one testify for anything? So that's why one has to put this knowledge into practice. And then being further guided how to avoid whatever it's to be done, whatever it's not to be done, that one doesn't allow oneself being again distracted, because that may happen. One can again become distracted by some kind of form of material energy. Because we miss the essence for something else. You know? We don't understand that Krishna is in everything. Anyway, there is a whole, maybe one time maybe I should do this. There's a whole explanation how Krishna is present in different subtle and gross forms through different expansions. That's a very amazing thing that it's given also in Srimad Bhagavatam, different forms of the Lord. They represent different aspects of subtle and the gross existence. And if one has that knowledge, one has that vision, one has that understanding, then this is the way one can always be Krishna conscious. It's actually very, very simple. It's very profound. So, but anyway, for us, it's just at least some extent, if we gain, it's beneficial. If we gain that understanding that Krishna is the attractive factor behind anything that we are attracted towards. Behind anything that we are attracted. And we spoke about that. We see that there is certain energy that is invested into something or someone for a certain period of time. And that those people or those elements, they can't control that energy. They are just instruments of it. And when the energy decides to withdraw itself, you can't get it back. You can't have it back. Why we are sometimes attracted to the same or thing or person and sometimes we are not? Did we ever ask ourselves that question? I'm sure everybody has the experience. I'm sure. I just like there was some news, I don't know, that they always have this nonsense, ridiculous news. Some boy said to some, the girl was lamenting that, that boy doesn't want to be with her anymore. And then he said, well, it's over, I'm not interested anymore. I'm not attracted anymore. There is no love anymore. Anyway, that kind of stuff. So why is that going on? In the beginning, everything was, wow, this and that, no, whatever it is. And then at the end, it ends up like this. So why is that energy sometimes attractive, sometimes it's not? Sometimes it's present, sometimes it's not. Why are all these things going on? Why we never asked ourselves that question? Because it's invested. It's invested. It doesn't belong to the person who is invested with it. How is that? Well, that you can find out. Please come next Tuesday. We'll discuss about it. Hare Krishna. Okay. Anyway, time's pretty much up. Are there any questions or comments on what we discussed today? No. You're suspended still for next 3 weeks. We'll see. Huh? Any questions? Anything?
How do we understand that we are moving towards Krishna's consciousness?
Okay, how do we understand if you're moving? Well, we are advancing in this realization that Krishna is that substance that it's attracting us. And we become more involved with that rather than the material energy. So just that kind of understanding that we are, or experience that we are more involved with Krishna rather than with, again, illusory material energy. And seeing that how much time you're investing in one or the other, that's all. Then you see how much you're advancing. So seeing what you're attracted. Are you attracted to some good movies or this and that, which is all fiction. Everything's pretty much a fiction. Or rather to something real that it's connected to spiritual life. I mean, I mentioned the movies. Of course, there's so many other things. But what is it that is attracting us that we are going to spend time with? Like I said yesterday, I came in a train or whatever. I see people, everybody's on mobile watching something. That's why I said, But I was listening to some lecture. I was listening to something spiritual. or I was chanting. So then you see what kind of activities you're performing, how you're using your time. So the more you're performing spiritual activities, then you can see that means you're having more spiritual taste than material. It's very obvious. Yes.
So if there is a person whose goal is to build material wealth,
Okay.
is he wrong with
Let
that?
me just repeat for some people online. If there is a person who wants to build material wealth, is there anything wrong with that?
Yeah.
Okay. What are the? It might be personal. You don't have to answer, but I'm just asking in general. What are the reasons for building up material wealth?
Gain popularity to gain power.
To gain popularity, to gain power. So it's very personal.
Yeah.
Okay. So then you'll have to take responsibility for whatever are outcomes of all of those. What do you think? Gaining power, it's very nice. You think that other people will tolerate you having the power? You think that other people will support you in that? Did you ever think about those things? Wealth also. You don't think people will come and ask you to share that wealth? Will try to. I just spoke to my mother last week, and she told me there is in some neighborhood there was a man who had a lot of money with himself, and somebody came and robbed him and took everything, and he is now like somehow they find out, or whatever it is, maybe whatever happened, I don't know. So even if you have wealth or something, do you think that people will respect that, and then everything will be nice and great and wonderful? So that's the problem, we think we have certain ideals and goals and aspirations and everything, but we don't understand what are that in the material world, there's always certain other kinds of consequences that are connected to whatever we aspire for, but they're negative ones. Because this world is world of duality. There's nothing only good. Everything has two sides of it. Everything is cold and heat, good and bad, black and white. There's so many dualities of material existence. So you can't just have one. That's something you have to realize. So even if you think something is good and I want to go for it and I try to attain it, but there's going to be a bad side to it. So if you want it selfishly for yourself, means just considering yourself, whatever it might be, fame. Speaking about fame, how much trouble people who are famous have. They can't get out of their house. Just see Amitabh Bachchan here, whatever. You can't. Can you reach out to him? Would he be happy and just comes out and everybody, give me, you go mad. How much they have to, protect themselves and, distance themselves and whatever it is, We think this is great and wonderful because we've never had it. That's our problem. But better we learn, through examples of others, if nothing else, why we have to go to certain experiences. Because we have wrong ideals in life. We think it's wonderful to have wealth. It's wonderful to be famous. Actually, it's the most horrible thing. One of the very famous musicians said, I've been climbing the ladder of success, and finally when I reached the top and I looked behind, there was nothing. There was nothing. So we have to understand that everything will have its own dual result. So if we don't understand that, and we are aspiring so much and wasting whole life to attain something, then we'll be disappointed. So better to realize that you're going to be disappointed right now if that's what you're aspiring for, and not waste the time in that regard. No. Better to understand everything, because that's the knowledge that scriptures are giving. I say, if you do this is what you can expect. If you're going to attain this is what you can expect. If you can deal with it, okay, fine. If you can deal with it, fine. But I don't know who can. Because everything's going to have its particular type of consequences. So are you ready to deal with it? Are you ready to pay the price? And then accept whatever results of it there are. Are you ready to accept that? That's when we deal in our own, on our own personal level. But if we say, if you like you read scriptures or something, then you see, okay, fame and wealth and whatever it is, let's say, then actually pretty much you see those who don't aspire for that, they mostly get it in many ways, because it's a product of pious activities, dharma, you know. Of course, you have to work sometimes for it. That's not sometimes. I mean, you always have to work for it in a way, but that's there. But if you have proper consciousness, that actually comes on its own, pretty much. If Krishna wants to make someone happy, he can do that. Like Maharaj Yudhishthira. I mean, I've been thinking of Maharaj Yudhishthira in Mahabharata. He didn't want to become emperor. He didn't want any wealth. But every time he lost, he gained it more. And ultimately became the emperor of the world. He had it all on disposal. Whereas Duryodhana was struggling, he wanted it all. He wanted it all and ultimately ended up with nothing, in complete frustration, losing it everything, even what he had. He had practically a right for half of a kingdom. Even that he was granted, which he wasn't even supposed to, but they agreed to that, and he couldn't have it. And so many other things ultimately ended up with nothing. Anyway, there are many instructive examples in the scriptures. So if we aspire something on our own, yes, you might gain it, but you have to learn. You have to be ready to deal with the resultant reactions of it. And you might think that then people will be your friends, but then you just find out something else. You might end up in pretty bad, you know, realizations, disappointments, frustrations like this. So better you know what you desire. You should better know what you desire before really desiring it. That's life. That's material life. No. Yeah. Is that okay? That's my answer. I mean, so far. If anything else, we can discuss after the class. You want something more personal? Yeah. Okay. Any other questions or something? I know one basketball star. You know, he became very famous, and then he started earning a lot. And then he said, you know, he told his life story. He said, then so many people came to ask me for money to invest in this, invest in that. And he said, and he just expressed such frustration because of it. Because again, if you refuse, then you completely, you know, they completely, you know, you kind of lose their so-called friendship also, and so many. I mean, wow. It's always like this, you know. You're going to attract a lot of negativity. Negative elements with whatever you have, because somebody else wants to have it. You know, let's say you have a most beautiful girl. You think that's a blessing? As Chanakya Pandit said, that's the enemy in the home. Beautiful. I mean, he said that. Let's say because it's not only beautiful for you, it's going to be beautiful for others. You know? It's just, you're going to go through a lot of purifications, a lot of trouble. Anyway, so that's material world again. It's a world of duality. You can't have it. Okay, we'll end here. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Premanande.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you very much, Prabhuji.